Hi everyone. So we wanted to share a little video with you about some of the answers we have, brief answers to the top questions that were asked. We know that it is often challenging to be an entrepreneur, and there are so many different areas that people are looking for guidance. And this is really where the rubber hits the road. We're moving beyond just talking about generalities, but we're going to offer some specific tactics for addressing some of the top issues we see in our clients.
So the first thing that people almost always ask is, once they get a big vision and they're excited and they're expanded for their vision of what's potential, then they see all the stuff that needs to happen to get there, and they can hit a place of overwhelm. So the question becomes, what do I do first? And this boils down to sequencing. What leads to what? So one way to do that, we talked a little bit earlier in the series about how to expand your vision. You can do that on a macro level, like a 5-year vision, which is great. It gives you a bigger canvas on which to play. Then you go back to a 1-year vision. Then you want to work backwards and say, how do I get to that 1-year vision by organizing things by quarters? So that gives you some bigger benchmarks. And then in terms of like what to put your focus on, I always think it's important to think about what's going to be the biggest revenue piece of your vision that you can manifest that can feed all the rest of it. So you want to put your attention and focus on whatever's going to get you to the biggest revenue flow first, because that allows you to invest in the things that are on a longer time horizon. So when you can prioritize based upon that, then it keeps you healthier. One of the things I talk about is financial health, is that you want to have enough cash in the bank, enough flow to kind of de-stress the system. And so if you prioritize first, like, oh, this bigger launch is going to get me to the next milestone, so you want to focus on that first, and do those things which are going to generate the most value first. Not try to get everything perfect, but oftentimes it's better to get 80% of the way there with a bunch of different things and just get out the door than to try to get to 100% on all fronts. And so, because otherwise you can hit these pain points where, like, oh, all of a sudden you're under-resourced, understaffed, and there's a lot of stress in the system. So you want to try to minimize that and get momentum on the big blocks first that get you to your big revenue milestones first, which then allows you to flesh out the rest of your whole vision.
One piece I just want to add is that many people fall into the trap of just focusing on what is urgent. There are fires to be put out, so all the energy can go to dealing with those urgent things and not saving any time for those things that are important but not urgent, and then those important things never get handled. So I really encourage people to put into your schedule a chunk of time each week where you're working on something that is important but not urgent. So for example, you might be working on a new website that is not urgent, but it's going to really up level, or there's systems that you need to put into place, or job descriptions that need to be written so that you can hire that next person. So if you put an extra spot in your schedule, a couple of hours a week for those things, I guarantee that you will always use that time. And it's great to not feel super crunched because you don't have any time in your schedule. So planning ahead can leave you more space to feel relaxed and know that you're handling both sides of the equation on an ongoing basis.
So the next question that we get asked a lot has to do with, how do I expand my reach? How do I reach more people? Because people feel like they've got important gifts for the world, and often it's being under-received, or they're not as visible as they want. And Deva, I'd love for you to, what's your response to that?
Well, there's a lot of different ways to expand your reach, and with people that are our mentees, we work with this through time because there's so many different ways. But one way that we can focus on here is expanding your reach through public speaking. And I think that is one of the best ways where you get more visibility and people start coming towards you instead of you having to, be trying to find those clients. They get magnetized towards you. But there's really 3 key things when you think about public speaking. One is, what is your message and how are you conveying that message? 2 is, where are you speaking? And then 3 is, how are you presenting yourself? So in terms of the what are you sharing, many times people can be very focused on the information that they want to share and all the key points. But what we have come to know is that people really respond very well to storytelling. So if you can think about what are the key points you want to make, but thread those points together, or find a really illustrative story from your own life or from the life of one of your clients or someone else, that really helps people get drawn in and get much more interested and pay attention to what you're sharing. And as you're telling the stories, as much as you can use very descriptive language so that you're bringing people into a scene, you're having them feel, the pit in your stomach or the hair raised on the back of your neck or the fast breathing or whatever those descriptive things are, so people feel like they're a part of it. It draws people in. And then yes, you bring your information. You always have the moral to the story or a learning point. So each story is not for the story's sake, but is for the sake of conveying your message. That is how your stories will be much more effective. And there's a whole, if we work in person together at some point, we can coach you through some of those details. But thinking about the stories from your own life that are relevant. And then, don't be afraid to be putting yourself out and capturing video content of you speaking in all different places. I remember earlier in my speaking career, I was often going to Toastmasters and just having a place where I could practice speaking in front of a crowd, and even got some video footage from, a presentation at Toastmasters, but that could be used as part of my speaking reel. So if people want to see you speak, they have some content to draw from. So practicing, but also looking around your community. What are all the different places you could speak, from chambers of commerce to all different events that, there's so many telesummits nowadays, but if you have a really great speaker one sheet that has your picture, it has a bunch of the different topics, ideally if you can get a couple testimonials, so you have a little package ready to go, so that and then start going out there, even looking in the yellow pages, or finding places in your community where you can just start getting out there and then gather testimonials for those speakers, and so that when you show up on a bigger stage, you're more polished and have great stories to tell. So that's one way of expanding your reach among many different ways.
And I'll share that whole storytelling piece, has often been something I kind of shake my head about, I don't want to have to tell another story. And Dave gets on me every time I do a public speaking event. What are the stories you're going to tell? I'm like, I don't know what. So it's natural sometimes to have resistance to telling vulnerable stories, but I tell you, those are the things that people remember. I did a book tour around this Sacred America, Sacred World, and I had a grab bag of about 7 or 8 stories that I would need to tell to different audiences, and that was what they always came back and wow, that story with your father-in-law really blew me away and really helped me bridge something with my brother, who I've been estranged with over politics.
And the reason it works is they can see themselves in you,
yeah.
Right? And so, and it doesn't have to be your story. I remember myself at one time saying, I don't have great stories because, I didn't grow up, with a super hard knock life. My stories maybe aren't as potent. But I found stories by digging and seeing, there are things that I've gone through as well. But you can also borrow someone else's story. So it could be, another compelling story that illustrates your point. It doesn't always have to be your own story. So anyway, this is just one way of many ways to expand your reach, but don't underestimate the power of a powerful presentation.
The other thing that I think is important, that we work a lot with folks in our mentorship program, we'll have them really stand and talk about their work. And oftentimes people build in a lot of contraction, or they're a little bit shy about it. And we get to coax them out to bring more of their fullness out, more of the passion, the intensity, sometimes the emotion, because that's riveting for people to feel and sense. And so you're more likely to get enrolled. So it's kind of a muscle to build over time, to be able to speak in a way that gets people animated and excited. And we're not the masters at it out there, but we've had to grow into that skill to grow our business.
We're pretty good. So another key thing that people ask about often, to me in particular, is around work-life balance. As you may know, we have a very young child, and she is a big part of our life. And we have structured our company so that we have a 4-day work week, so that we can spend a lot of time with our daughter. And we also have things going on. We're both working on books and other projects. So, structuring our work life. And so how do you create work-life balance? 4-day work week is one great way. But also, it's what I find with many of my clients, it's looking at all the things you want to do. And most people, when you write your list of all your visions that you want to accomplish, Everyone thinks it needs to happen within the next 12 months. And that creates a huge amount of stress because usually our visions expand way beyond what is possible within 12 months. So what I encourage people to do is to really stretch it out to like a 10-year plan. What do you want to have accomplished within 10 years? And then look at, you can kind of parse it out. Okay, what makes sense within this year? What makes sense next year? The following year, but to make yourself limit what you're going to try to accomplish within 12 months without overworking or killing yourself or burnout, kind of like what is manageable within 12 months. And hey, if you have extra time, you can always pull in one of those things from next year. But there's this thing of, can we really have it all, especially as women? And what I tell people is, yes, you can have it all, but you can't necessarily have it all at the same time because there's something that usually gives in that process. And what gives is often your health, your well-being, your sanity, your level of stress. People often ask the question of, can you have it all? And I say, yes, you can have it all, but you can't really have it all at the same time without compromising something. Something's got to give. And usually what gives is your health, your sanity, your stress level. I see people who pile it all on and they are manifesting huge things, but they are exhausted, burned out, and not really having a good time along the way, which I don't think is worth it at all, especially your health. So if you can stretch out the timelines a little bit, you still can have it all, but give yourself a little breathing room so that you do have time to be with your friends. You do have time to be with someone in your family that might be needing extra support. You do have time, if you're a parent, to really fully be with your kids. And then also getting very, very good at identifying what is your zone of mastery and genius and what can be delegated. And then really focusing on building the team around you to be implementing those pieces. So you're focusing on the things that you are best at and that you enjoy doing, and then you're outsourcing to someone else the pieces that may be their area of genius, perhaps, and hopefully they're doing it better than you.
Well, what you shared is great, and I have a slightly different perspective as well, because for me, it's not just sort of always pushing things further in the future, it's holding the possibility of manifesting things on a timeline, but putting limiters on how much time we make available for that, because that has an almost forcing function, because it leads us to delegate more, to build team, or what do we need to attract? So you can say, like, I want to create this beautiful vision and go to the next level, and I'm also going to put a limit of a 36-hour work week, and it's good to make yourself accountable to that. When I first recognized this, it was early in about 3 years into shift. I was working 70-hour work weeks, so I made the public commitment. And it was probably the email that got the most response of anything I've ever sent out, about sharing about this pattern, this burnout pattern, how it was a symptom of masculine-feminine imbalance in myself, and that I needed to have the whole network hold me accountable. And actually, I had you hold me accountable. So I put a 45-hour limit on my work week. So when I hit 45 hours, I had to shut down no matter what needed to happen. So it forced me to prioritize better and pare things out, shorten meetings, cut extraneous variables. And there's a little bit of pushing sometimes things into a future timeline, which can be helpful. Some people need that. But also when sometimes you hold the possibility that things can manifest quickly, but that to do that, we need really great strategies. We need really great allies, new possibilities, and not necessarily, we want to do that within a work container that nourishes us too. And so that's, I think, a really key other point is to actually boundary the time that we're available each week, so that we can build in enough time for the self-care and the time to plug in. Because one of the things I talked about in module 1 was why, as a visionary leader, your cultivation of the vision and you're putting flesh on it is central to manifesting it. So you really need that time every week to expand, to dilate, to open, to receive, to be in nature, whatever your way of plugging back in. And that's part of how you get fed to be the leader you can be.
I think one of the things that Stephen's speaking to, which is really important, is having options. And it's what we call dynamic steering. So, the world is more complex now, so often we don't just have a single roadmap that's like an arrow that gets shot. That's part of why we design longer term programs like mentorship programs, so we can help people dynamically steer. Hey, if you have someone that you can offload something onto, great, maybe you can manifest it in a much shorter period of time. If that's not happening, your resources are really stretched and it's all on you, then maybe you need to expand your timeline. So being able to constantly shift, you get a new download, as Stephen often does, about a new vision coming in. How can that come into your plan without throwing everything else off kilter? Can that go in this quarter, or does it need to go in next year? So constantly being willing to dynamically steer and always making new decisions and small pivots on a regular basis to account for the new information that's coming in.
So we've kind of gone on some tangents, so they're juicy ones. So a third area that we get a lot of questions around is just hiring and building team and what to bear in mind there. And it connects to something that, Deva, you said that I think is really important, is getting really clear about your zone of mastery or genius. And that is something that not only are you good at, but that really feeds you. Gay Hendricks makes this great distinction between your zone of excellence and zone of genius. And sometimes you can get stuck doing things that you're excellent at, but you actually don't feed you. And that can become a limiter on the growth of your business. So you want to keep paring away things that you can find people who can do close to, doesn't have to be better than you, but at least close to the level that you can do that, because that gets more and more of your time in your zone of genius, and which feeds your energy back up. Because Chip Connolly talks about how the CEO of a company, which any visionary leader, you're sort of the CEO of your vision, is you're also the chief emotions officer. So you're setting the tone, the emotional tone and the excitement and the enrollment. And so you always have to be feeding that in yourself. So when you're building a team, you're thinking about what would you feel better to have offloaded to somebody else if possible, and then also creating a framework where people can step in who have greater mastery in different areas, and that you give them enough latitude while not allowing the core of what you're doing, the core of your vision, to get derailed. I sometimes see that there can be a challenge point, because if you have people with a lot of good ideas coming in, but it's not quite resonant with your original vision, that can create tension, and you have to create a kind of a balance point between having new ideas and creative directions with the trajectory that you've really set with your visionary leadership. And to balance those two, I think, is a really key element. So building team, you want to have people who resonate with your mission first, I think, is really important, the vision and the mission and the vision, and that have the skill set second, because sometimes the skills can be built, but if somebody doesn't have a fundamental deep alignment with the vision and mission that you're here to create, then that's going to create dissonance over time as well.
One other thing we get asked about a lot is how to structure affiliate relationships, joint ventures, all these kinds of partnerships in the best possible way. And my answer is that I think that people are often putting the cart before the horse. I really believe that it begins with having true, legitimate relationships with people, that you develop allies who are in your field that you get to know, and this is something that does require some investment of time and energy to really get to know people, to find out what they're up to, and to begin with the relationship, and know that the joint venture, affiliate, all those kinds of things can come as a byproduct, but I think the relationships are the most fruitful and healthy when you really get to know people first and start from a space of generosity. I like to look around me at my colleagues and see who's up to something, and do I have something that where I could help? Do I have more space in my mailing calendar where I could do a mailing for someone? Do I, is there a way we could collaborate in some way? We're looking for the win-wins as opposed to really looking for what's in it for me, what do I need? And I have to tell you, when people have done that for me, there's been times when I've had a program or something that is not yet doing as well as I'm hoping, and where someone sort of out of the blue will come forward and say, hey, I'd love to help you promote that. And someone that I might not have expected, and really kind of help me when I've been in a little bit of a challenging place. It has meant so much to me. And then I am then looking for, how can I support that person? So really genuine relationships. I think people are so busy nowadays that if I send out requests, just even like, I'll help you, you help me, it often won't land that well. The people who respond are the ones who respond quickest and that it's the most alive are the ones that I know. We actually have a genuine relationship. They care about me, I care about them. I'm not saying all these people are your best friends, but that you actually have a network of support where you really are helping each other and where you can take off your Superman cape or your Superwoman cape and admit like, wow, this isn't going as well as possible. Do you have any ideas for me, solutions, or, could you help me out? And people are usually willing to do that when you know them and when you care about them. So this is where it makes sense to go to different events or things and maybe not just sprinkle your business card over everyone, but, hone in on 2 or 3 people that you want to share a meal with and get to know first from the space of who is this person and what are they up to, not looking for, can they fill a space in my JV calendar? And it usually goes a lot better in my experience and our experience.
And I can say you are very masterful at building that really deep, loving community. And there's a piece that I would kind of add to that is that there's like 2 levels of like that where you're really investing time and energy in building this deep friendship and community. And then there's a broader network. And I think sprinkling lots of tiny little favors through that broader network does pay dividends in the long haul. I tend to do a little bit more of that. David tends to do deeper dives with people. And it's just one of the easiest things you can do is to connect to people who can get value from the exchange. I do that all the time. I'm always like, oh, you should meet this person. And so by doing that, you're kind of at the epicenter of a whole network of things. And you never know. Sometimes these little connection points can turn into business deals way down the line. And they come back to you and they're like, wow, it's like, I really owe you for that $1 million business thing that got created from this one connection point. So I think it's sort of like, it's one of the easiest ways you can be generous with your sense of like who would be a good person for that person to connect with, and just to introduce them via email with like 1 or 2 sentences. You don't need to spend a lot of time on it, but there's a lot of gratitude that comes when they're good connections that people can make too. And so that's these little favors, not from a transactional standpoint, but that really are like, you see somebody's genius, their blessing, their work in the world, and you're like, oh, I want to help that a little bit. So even if you feel really busy, you can do a 30-second intro here, 30-second intro there, and those things build up over time.
So maybe there's a both and there.
Both and, absolutely both and.
Mm-hmm.
And so another area that we wanted to talk a little bit about is the whole idea around online launches. So I get a lot of questions around this because
We get a lot of questions
because
about
I've
that.
probably created more online launches than maybe anybody on the planet. We've done at least 500 in the last 8 years, and so we just get in this rhythm of online launches. And there's so many things to hone a funnel and process, and there's a lot of systems out there you can apply. But I think the first thing to do, just on the very high level, is to recognize that what you want to do with any online launch is to create a crescendo of focus on something that you're bringing to the world, right? So there's a lot of noise out there. So you want to have like a moment in time when there's a lot of people who are mailing about something or sharing about something, or that it's like a special event. So the more you can create that specialness, that uniqueness that stands out from the crowd, the better. And the way you do that is that you're speaking. You're really offering a solution to a challenge on a deep level, a solution or an opportunity to transform something. So when you're designing any sort of a course or online offer, you want to get super crystal clear about where are people right now and where are you going to take them. It's the transformative journey, the transformative arc. Every single program and course that we design, that's our first question. We call it brand DNA process. We start with, how are people going to be different as a result of taking this program? And then you essentially diagnose where they're at, and with your expertise, you're giving a deeper diagnosis of where people are blocked or challenged. And it doesn't have to just be defining like, oh, you're so stuck in this way. It can be subtle. It can be refining. It can be like, oh, you're kind of hitting a plateau in certain areas, or you feel like something has, that you haven't healed your relationship with Christianity, and whatever it is. It's like there can be something that's like that is essentially propelling people to want to do something about it. So you're speaking really clearly to that. You're offering some level of diagnosis of that situation and a clear pathway to transform via a program. So you do an online launch, which is free. It's like a little miniature version of offering, here's a small form of the transformation we can offer, or one step of that transformation. And then you have a longer form, and then usually it's still a longer form. So you want to build over time and deliver as much value as you can in that first free offering, leading into the next paid offering, leading into the more in-depth work. And the more specific a solution you have to something that is really a challenge for people, the more it can become a premium product, because it has that much value for people as well. So there's a lot of different, touch points. You want to build the same thing where you want to build some rapport in the introductory call. You want to have like a sense of like them getting to know you and your work and your story, then offering a body of work, and then only once they've really received value, you're offering a next step. You're not immediately trying to go to a next step. You're building a relationship with people. Same thing happens with an email sequence. Is you want to build that relationship over time, and you're encouraging people to take the next step, and you're using some deadlines to do that as well, because we need to have those limiters, or else we can just keep procrastinating the deadlines of when an early registration bonus might expire or the course might start, and those are motivators to make a decision, but you're not doing it in a manipulative way. You're not sort of like, you want to always say, it's like, can you get the sale on this email, but is each thing really building a relationship of trust for the long haul? So that's what you want to have, that perspective that each stage you're nurturing and building the relationship, so that even if they choose not to do a course or a program with you right now, that they may do it in the future, because you already built a relationship of trust by delivering on your promises, by offering real value, by respecting their decision-making process rather than manipulating them. Anyway, there's a lot of things we can go into, but people often have a lot of questions about online launches.
Yeah, and I think also what's important is there's so much of the old wisdom out there, which is, you find people's pain points and you speak to their pain and you milk their pain. And it's pretty awful. Even hearing some of the way that people teach about marketing, especially online marketing, and we try to be in our work much more aspirational, like what are you moving people towards? And sometimes you do need to bring up certain things that people might be experiencing, but you want to really, I think the language is very important, and see how something feels where you read it, where people can feel on the other side if you're like, painting them into some dire situation and your product is the only solution. I think you do not want to do that. I think the tone is really important, and being aspirational, and this fine line between, showing where they are now and where they can be, but in a way that has everyone feeling intact and good at the end, and that people don't feel like you're somehow trying to manipulate them or exploit their challenging situation. So I think it's really, it's important to be very mindful about that, and the words you use are important. So often, if you're writing your own copy, really important to have someone you trust look over it and make sure that it doesn't feel too like hard, or that you're not too much like hard selling people. I don't think that that's what people are looking for nowadays, and I think it will hurt you instead of help you.
Especially more sophisticated audiences. So if you're really serving people who are, conscious, growing on a path of personal growth, it's like you want to really appeal to who they're aspiring to become, and to mirror that and empower that, not to diminish, as Deva was saying.
When you just said serve, so I think focusing on how can you serve people instead of focusing on I'm selling to people. How can you serve? And if you truly serve people and you do a good job serving them with your free content, then they will naturally want to buy something from you, or at least a portion of them will want to take the next step.
All right. Well, I think we've covered a lot of really important questions here, and there are hundreds more, and that's part of the fun of engaging in a deeper journey, and part of what I'm sure many of you are eager for out there is to have this opportunity to really ask questions of people who can provide answers and guidance, and who've had flops in an area and had successes, and know what the difference is between the two. So that's part of why we're excited about our Shift Mentorship program. We're going to be sharing a little bit more about that in our final video. And for now, though, I think what just encourage you to do is just take a little bit of time to write what are the 3 or 4 biggest questions that if you could get an answer to would move your business forward and your vision forward more than anything else. Because the more you're clear about the questions, then you can start to brainstorm potential answers. And we'll probably have some of those answers, but other people might have other components. You want to first formulate the game-changing questions, and then you find the people who can help provide the answers.
We look forward to answering many of your questions. And for those of you who are interested in potentially mentoring with us, you can take a peek at the application, and you'll have a chance, if you're in the program, to ask us questions every week.